What's up, all you beautiful people? Today we are going to be continuing HBO's The Last of Us review. And this week we're going to be doing episode 3. And man, I'll tell you what, this one's a tearjerker. You're going to be bawling your eyes out at watching this episode. And it's also the biggest deviation from the video game that we've had yet. So there was a lot for me to be interested and be tied to in this episode. So a lot of surprises around the corners for me and all that good stuff. We're just going to get into it by doing a little recap of what happens in the episode, and I'm going to talk about my thoughts as we go. This episode opens with Joel and Ellie. We actually didn't have a flashback in this episode, which I was a little bit sad about. I was kind of loving those things. I mean, I guess that's not true, I guess, because we, instead of having like a flashback from, from the 60s talking about how the cordyceps could evolve and end up becoming and growing in humans or whatever and making the viruses, or the actual outbreak of day 0. Instead, we just have the day 0 outbreak with Bill in this episode. I'll give you kind of the quick rundown of the game. Bill is a character who has a pretty big part towards the beginning of the video game, obviously. He is basically just kind of a doomsday prepper. He has this whole town kind of on lock with all these traps set up around and everything. And in the game, you go around with Bill. I think you are getting there again to find a battery. Everything is about a damn car battery in this video game and in this show. You come in there and he's starting to help you look for the battery and helping you kill zombies and all that good stuff. And then he mentions his, I don't even know if he ever calls him his lover or anything in the video game, but he has this boyfriend, Frank, who's been missing. You end up finding Frank later, and he has hung himself, killed himself for whatever reason. I don't remember exactly. But in the show, it's completely different. Bill and Frank are both one character and one whole kind of plot line that we follow, instead of it just being Bill. Because you only see Frank as a dead body in the video game. And this, Frank and Bill, it's just Frank and Bill. So we were with Joel and Ellie for a tiny bit in the beginning of the episode. They're just basically just scavenging a little place, coming to look for Bill's place. And then they come back at the end of the episode. But we open with Bill finding Frank in one of his pits that he's dug outside of his little compound in his town that he's got there. They end up becoming friends. He helps him, gives him food and all this stuff. And, they start building a relationship. They bang or whatever. You have a little time jump to them kind of building their relationship and talking about how to create this town and make it a little bit more lively, and about inviting people and like kind of trying to have friends and have connections with the outside world. And that's where Tess and Joel come in the picture. Bill doesn't like outsiders at all. They're sitting there eating a nice dinner outside, and Bill's got a gun on Joel the entire time. It's pretty funny, actually. It's pretty funny just seeing Nick Offerman in general in this role, because I've really only ever watched him in Parks and Rec, and you could still just hear the kind of like the rumblings, mumbling under your breath kind of way that he talks in Parks and Rec, and how funny he is. You can definitely see the Ron Swanson come popping out every once in a while for sure. But they make kind of a little alliance, because they know they need stuff from each other, so they end up becoming somewhat friends over the years, I guess. Bill's still very off-putting to everybody, but they do what they can to get some stuff out of each other. They have another time jump. Bill's compound is under attack by robbers, which is one of the things Joel was saying was going to happen to him at some point. So that's why Joel is helping him and bringing him in resources and stuff. They're here, they're invading. Frank is asleep and Bill's already out on the street shooting people. It's very weird the way they film it, because, you think Bill would be the smart guy and like have a more tactical way of shooting off defenders, but he's literally just standing in the middle of the wide open street where he gets shot twice. He gets shot in his leg and he gets shot in his gut, and Frank comes out there and helps him, and all of Bill's defense things end up killing off all of the people anyways. It's kind of weird. They do a little fake out here, because I really didn't know what was going to happen, because everything had been so different up to this point. I thought that maybe we were just going to see Frank die somehow, battling or fighting or something. And for a second, I thought that they were going to kill off Bill, and then Frank was going to be the leftover one, because Bill is sitting here bleeding out with 2 gunshot wounds on the table, and Frank is helping him try to survive. He's putting alcohol over the wounds, cleaning them, trying to get the bullet out and all this stuff. And they do kind of a fade to black where Bill closes his eyes. And then we do like another 10-year time jump, I think. They do a little fake out because they have somebody sitting in a wheelchair, and it's Frank. Frank has some sort of deterioration disease, like maybe Parkinson's or I don't know, something, but he can't really use his hands. He's very shaky. He seems a little depressed. All he can really do is sit in there and paint all day. This is where This is where the episode starts getting really real and very depressing, because if you've ever seen someone go through this or know somebody who's had somebody go through something like this, watching them slowly die over time is a very sad thing. And at the end of this day that we flash back to, he says to Bill, like, hey, this is my last day. You're gonna take me around, we're gonna do these things, we're gonna get married, I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna swallow a bunch of pills, and then I'm gonna fall asleep with you. And you're like, holy shit, this is making me cry. I was definitely crying. So they go around and they do all of their stuff, and they end up having dinner, and Bill crushes up all the pills, and they toast and chug their wine, and it turns out that Bill had put pills into his wine as well. Of course, you know, the little Romeo and Juliet story. But that was just such a surprise for me, because they end up going to the room and they never show them or anything, but they die. And it's just weird because you basically don't even get any interaction with Bill and Joel in this episode. I like this episode. It's really good, and I like what they did, and I love how they built out and fleshed out the characters. But it's just kind of weird to have a whole storyline of these two people that basically don't even do anything with Joel. It's like just having basically a spin-off in the middle of a season. I mean, they have that one conversation with him, and then Ellie and Joel get there and find them dead, and they read their note, and Bill just leaves all of his stuff to Joel. Really good, and very depressing. But yeah, I thought it was a bit of a weird way to kind of have him pop in there. I thought Bill would survive, like maybe he would take all the pills and not die, like he kind of just, you know, there wasn't enough dosage for him or something like that. Yeah, I guess they both kind of died together. Joel and Ellie come in there, they scavenge the place, and Joel gets a little sad. He kind of gives Ellie the rundown finally that he does in the game, because he realizes that he's gonna have to take Ellie to Wyoming with his brother and have him help him. He used to be a Firefly, his brother did. Gonna have to take Ellie to him, and hopefully he knows what to do with Ellie. Realizes that he's committed to this journey now, so he gives Ellie kind of the rundown. It's like, hey, you do what I do and I say it. It's straight out of the video game. I don't remember exactly what he says. Maybe I'll be able to find a picture and I can put it right here. All in all, this episode was really exciting for me because I got to see so much new shit. I really enjoyed what I got to see, even though it made me cry. It was so depressing. It was really impressive. I'm excited to see more. It's also kind of interesting because they drew this out, because this was quite a bit quicker thing in the game, I would say. And since they drew this out for, I think from what they've said, this is the second longest episode aside from the first episode. Since they drew out this whole thing and created this, they have that much less time to get the whole rest of the game within the next 7 episodes. So I'm interested to see how they pull that off, because I don't want them to take time away doing new things to take away from things that I really love in the game. It's HBO, so I'm sure they'll be able to figure it out. Other than that, I really enjoyed this episode. We're still just getting better and better. The show is developing more and more. I'm having an amazing time with it. I'm starting to have more and more people hop on the train, I think. I've had a couple of people watch my videos and say that they've started watching the show because of it, which is really exciting for me to hear, because that's kind of the point of what I'm doing. Just trying to introduce content to people and give them a place to learn things about it. And other than that, thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you next week. Make sure to like and subscribe.